Morning traders, Chris Capri here, Second Skies Trading. Welcome to live webinar today, trading the US election. So this is kind of a follow-up to the one that we did on Tuesday. Today's webinar is first Friday of the month, so we always do live session open Q&A. We're going to kind of focus this around the US election basically because that's the hot thing right now. So right now, Biden is in the lead, not only in popular vote, but in delegate count right now. There's a few, it's really coming down to 5 states at this point. So Arizona, which they haven't reported any new numbers since yesterday afternoon, partially because there were some violent protests outside the voting counting stations. And so they kind of had to lock down and kind of go dark. So he's up by, what is that, 47,000 in Arizona or 46,000. Nevada's tight, he's up by 12,000, but the remaining counties are Las Vegas and then one other, which are Democratic leaning. So they should continue to keep the lead or add to the lead. Arizona is tight because some of the votes that have been coming in, Donald Trump has been gaining some ground, but then he lost a little ground. And so it's super tight. If you want to see tight, Georgia, which just flipped late last night, early morning today for Biden. Now, keep in mind, Biden only needs to lock up. He needs obviously to keep the states that he has, but he needs to lock up Arizona and Nevada, and it's over. He's got the 270. But if he were to take Georgia, which he was down by 200,000 on Wednesday, he was down by 200,000 votes. He's now up a little over 1,000. So almost 1,100. Amazing swing, but mostly because it was mail-in ballots in Atlanta, which is very progressive. Or not progressive, it's leaning Democrat, obviously. So that's why he's been able to make that up. North Carolina, I don't think he's going to catch up at that point, but Pennsylvania is now flipping blue. And that was because the remaining votes, he was down by 400,000 or 500,000, but they had like 2 million votes that still had to be counted. And that was in Philadelphia, which is Democrat leaning, and Pittsburgh, which is Democrat leaning. So he is now in the lead in Pennsylvania. Even if he were to lose Arizona somehow and lose Nevada, if he picks up Georgia and Pennsylvania, it's over. He could just lose Arizona right now, pick up Pennsylvania, and it's over. So losing Arizona would put him at 253, but then the Pennsylvania, the 20 electoral college votes would put him at 273. So he's got multiple paths to victory, and Donald Trump has one. Donald Trump, as I said before, I had said this on Tuesday when I did this, I said he's going to have to run the table. And in this case, he's going to have to run the insides. He's going to have to run the inside straight or the straight flush. He's going to have to do that. He's going to have to take Arizona. He's going to have to take Nevada. And if he loses Arizona, Nevada, he's got to keep North Carolina. He's got to retake Pennsylvania, and he's got to take Georgia. Because if Biden loses Arizona, but he picks up Pennsylvania, it's over. If he loses Arizona, but keeps Nevada and takes Georgia, it's over. So Donald Trump really needs to take all 5 of these states. If Biden keeps Arizona and he keeps Nevada, it's over. So Biden's got multiple paths to victories, and Trump really only has, a very narrow window. Like he has to take Arizona, and then he has to keep the remaining states. Or he'd have to keep Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. So he'd have to win 4 out of 5. And so I don't, as I said before, my original prediction was Biden. I said probably around 290. If he takes Georgia, if he takes Nevada, he keeps Nevada and Arizona, that puts him at 270, and then Georgia puts him at 286. If he takes Pennsylvania, then that would put him at 306. My prediction was between 290 and 315. So that might end up boring out to be true. I'll totally confess, I was a little bit nervous because he was starting off good, and then the red mirage started to come in, which was the majority of Republican voters want to vote in person. And because of Democrats, they felt a little more concerned about COVID, so they preferred to mail in. They generally will mail in more than they will actually go to the polling stations. But in this case, the numbers were even higher. Because of COVID, they felt like, hey, I'm going to mail in ballots, or I'm going to, drop them off at the ballot box and things like that. So it created this red mirage scenario, which was very straightforward, that Republicans would do well on election night. It would look like they were dominating, but that was because there's no way all the mail-in ballots were going to be counted on time. Some of the states don't even start counting the mail-in or the drop-off until the day of. Some states start counting early, but you're creating this situation where it looked like Donald Trump was in front. And then as everything started to get counted and come in and counted over the next several days, absentee, mail-in, drop-off, all that, things that were postmarked by election day and arrived on time based upon the varying states' deadlines, that things would start to shift more blue. And that's what we're seeing. I feel like if Trump's going to win anyone, if he's going to take any of these states right now, there is a possibility for Arizona, but it's tough. Georgia being razor thin is obviously tough. Pennsylvania is now what, 6,000, 5,600 roughly in Biden's camp. So that is a little bit bigger hurdle. North Carolina, I think he's got in the bag at this point. So again, Biden has 4 or 5 ways he can win. Trump has like 1. So that's how it's going right now. And as things flipped yesterday, you know, some of the states flipped, like Pennsylvania flipped, Georgia flipped. The thing about it is that Georgia flipping and being so close, it's within a margin of range that the loser can demand a recount. Pennsylvania, there's legal challenges in there, so that might be an issue. But it's creating more uncertainty. And what happened with NASDAQ overnight sold off a lot of the gains, you know, from 12.1 down to 11.8. That's a 300-point drop roughly, or 240-point drop. That's huge. It is getting some of this back now that there's a little more clarity, but same thing with ES. So S&P futures had dropped, you know, 35.20 down to 34.58. That's 60-point drop. That's huge. Certainty is starting to come in with Georgia and all these things. It's coming back, but expect volatility. There's a possibility we could know the winner today. You know, if it comes in, we could possibly know. Like if Biden flips Georgia and he flips Pennsylvania and he holds on Nevada and he holds on Arizona, the chances for Trump to win are very, very, very narrow. You know, he would have to somehow win a recount in Arizona, and right now he's down 50,000 roughly, or 47,000. Yeah, 47,000. Recounts aren't going to do that. Nevada, you know, things would have to get tighter. Georgia, recount fine. It's within 1,000 votes. That obviously, let's see, yeah, it's within 1,000 votes or 1,100 votes. That could shift. Recounts can shift maybe 1,000 votes, but not 10,000, 20,000, 40,000 votes. Pennsylvania, there is one legal challenge that it could work in his favor, and that would put 120,000 votes into question, but it's becoming less likely. So if he ends up keeping these and picking up Pennsylvania and Georgia, he's so far ahead at this point that the courts might just be like, look, there isn't enough preponderance of evidence. And even if it did, it wouldn't create a material change in the election. So there's no point even running this, you know, legal situation out. So yeah, fascinating. I mean, this is kind of like Bush v. Gore, but way more complex. The only thing is Bush v. Gore Bush v. Gore came down to one state, Florida, you know, in 537 votes. So in some senses that was tighter, but this one had multiple states that were like down to the wire. So fascinating situation. As I said, you know, be cautious. It's going to create a lot of flips and things like that. And we've seen that. And what did I say is going to benefit from the election chaos? I said the US dollar is probably going to lose ground, which it did initially. I said precious metals, gold, silver are going to benefit. And what are we seeing? We're seeing gold and silver rise materially over the week. We're seeing, this is GDX, Gold Miners Index. We're seeing silver rise heavily over the week. Had you traded that, you would have made a lot of money on that. So lots going on. Okay, so let's get some questions. Banana Republic doing awesome. Good to hear. I might have to bust out for like a minute and just get some water. It's hard for me to be. I literally got here at like 6:28 my time. So yes, I'm doing an inhaler live on TV. I know. Normally I get to do this in the morning. And normally I get some water. I'll probably get some water in a second. Let me answer some questions and then I'm going to just grab some water super quick. Okay. Banana Republic doing awesome. Sophia saying, so happy to see that Biden is now leading in Pennsylvania. You live in Pennsylvania. Tom Limerick, hi to you. If I remember correctly, you're in Germany. So Justin Good morning, Chris and team. Wild race we got as anticipated. Yeah. Duong Long. Hi, sir. I know you threw out Baby Pips forum. Wow, I haven't been in Baby Pips in years. Like, I haven't been to Baby Pips. I think the last time I posted there was like 2013 or 2014. So it's been like 6-7 years. Thank you so much for sharing your info about price action. You're welcome. You're welcome on that. Forex is saying you're crazy if you think Biden received more votes than Obama. It's rigged. It'll be settled in the courts. They have evidence of dead people voting. Forex, yeah. Okay, how can I address that? In terms of Biden receiving more votes than Obama, it's not surprising in the sense that you have more people at home, so that means less people working. So that creates a situation where more people can vote. On top of it, love him or hate him, Trump is a polarizing figure. I've said before on Tuesday, I said, look, I'm a Buddhist. I've been a Buddhist for 20 years. I take it very, very seriously. And we have a certain code and vows that we take. And I take those very seriously. I'm not perfect across them, but I put a lot of energy into them. And one of them is that everyone, all living beings, all families, all individuals, all countries, all cultures have wisdom and confusion. And that includes Donald Trump, and that includes Joe Biden, includes all politicians. And crazily enough, that even includes Hitler. And so as awful a person as Hitler was, he actually did have very small nuggets of wisdom. They were small and they were outweighed tremendously. It's not even close in terms of the scale, how horrible a person he was. But Donald Trump has wisdom and confusion. Biden has wisdom and confusion. And Trump is, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree with this, a very polarizing figure. And he has not only, this is to say that, oh, Biden got more votes than Obama. There's been more votes in this election than any election in history. This is the most voted election in history, not in terms of percentage of the people voting, but in terms of the sheer numbers of people coming out. This is the largest population we've had in history in the US, and you've had both sides heavily motivated to vote. Trump has a very passionate base. Biden, or at least the Democrats, Biden himself doesn't necessarily have a lot of passion behind him, but the left has a lot of passion to get Trump out. And when you create that kind of verve, when you create that kind of situation, you really embolden people to come out and vote. We saw it ahead of time that the the mailed in ballots were off the charts in terms of prior elections. They were way higher than normal. Registrations were way higher on the Democrat and the Republican side. So to say that, oh, it's crazy that he got more votes than Obama, it's not that Biden is more alike than Obama, that he excites the base more than Obama. It's that Trump polarizes both sides. And so because of that, you've energized a lot of people. The numbers, even before the votes even were started counting, were suggesting this is going to be a heavily voted election. Participation is high. Pre-registration numbers were through the roof. Mail-in balloting was through the roof. Drop-off early was through the roof. So if you look at it from that perspective, it's not surprising at all that one side or the other has attracted a lot of votes. This has been the most voted election in history. Trump definitely won more votes this time than he did the last time. And so your logic doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense at all. And to think it's rigged, okay, provide evidence of it. Provide evidence of that. If you really think it's rigged, provide evidence of that. If you think it's rigged and you have evidence of it, you better believe the right has evidence of that, and they're bringing it out in the lawsuits. And if the evidence is there, then it'll come out in the courts. And clearly you don't have to worry about the courts being in your favor, not because it's more conservative than it is Democrat right now. The Supreme Court is more conservative than Democrat. So if the evidence gets to them and they're sitting there going, I think you're drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much. And keep in mind, I don't know if you know how actually voting works in the US, but when you go to a polling station, pollster, or the people or when you go to a voting station, you have to have an equal number of Democrats and Republicans working there, and they have to work together. So when you see them in pairs of twos, a Democrat has to work with Republicans, so you avoid bias on both sides. The number of people who are managing and overseeing them have to be of equal side, Democrat and Republican. So evidence of dead people voting. Yeah, well, okay, well, bring that proof out. I'm sure that proof is going to come out in the legal challenges. And if the courts see it as, there are more conservative judges now than ever. Trump appointed a ton of conservative judges. He's appointed more judges than several presidents in the last history. So the court is stacked. Federal courts are stacked with conservative judges. Arizona is by and large mostly the right. They have a Republican governor. Georgia is Republican. You're talking states that, have that. And yet those governors themselves are saying, hey, we're overseeing the count. So if you really have it, prove your evidence, put your evidence out there. Don't buy into conspiracy theories. Look at the evidence. Be a factual based person. Think of it like a trader. Where is the base of evidence right now? And so there's no, I seriously doubt dead people voting is going to swing this election. Is it going to swing it by 150,000 votes in Michigan, 30,000 votes in Wisconsin? These are all being counted and overseen by equal numbers on both sides, the left and the right. So I'm sorry, I don't buy it, Forex. I just don't buy it. If you have evidence of voters fraud, present it now. Exactly. Do you like KHC as a dividend stock? We'll get into that in just a second. Most voted because they're printing them. Yeah, I don't know about that because the votes have to be collected by a certain time period. There's no evidence of votes, of ballots being collected past their individual dates. Each state has an individual date that has to be received by. Some of them have them the day of. Some of them have, hey, they just have to be postmarked on election day and arrive 2 to 3 days later. So this whole thing that they're printing, bring evidence of it. I'm sure that evidence is going to get to the court. If there really is tangible evidence of that, if it's clear that that's true, the courts are going to recognize that and they're going to allow legal cases to pursue forward on that. But we're not seeing that. Most of the legal cases are getting tossed out because there's no preponderance of evidence. You have to prove those things just to even bring it to a suit. And if you can't, there's going to be no lawsuit. So Trump has more minorities voting for him than any Republican. That might be true. I think that is possibly true. Biden is... Okay, last one here. Biden's getting 100,000 more votes than the other Democrat on the ticket. In case you don't know, Forex, in case you don't know, when you get a ballot for a presidential election, it's not just you're voting on one thing there for the president, and then you vote separately for the senators and things like that. The presidential vote is the first thing on the ticket. All the other down ballots are later on the ticket. You don't have to vote for all the other down ballots. Some people don't even bother. I didn't vote for all the other candidates on the down ballot ticket, including senators. Some of them I don't know enough about. I don't know about every senator that's out there in my state. I don't have the time for that. I didn't vote on all the down ballots. So you can get more votes as a president and have less votes down ballot simply because of the fact that not everybody votes on every ballot on the ticket. So again, there's no logic in here. It's all, conspiracy theory. There's very little. I see you presenting no logic or factual evidence here. I apologize. I'm not trying to be aggressive towards you or say you're wrong or anything like that, but I see no logic or evidence here supporting your claims. There are postal workers on video saying they changed the postmark. Okay, great. Well, that evidence will go to the courts. And if the courts believe it, then that's true. Keep in mind, the person who did that, Project Veritas, has posted 2 other videos in the last month that were all completely debunked. That whole thing about Ilhan Omar stealing votes. The Minnesota AG looked in it with the FBI and they're like, yeah, that's total bunk. And they found out the guy that Project Veritas had interviewed was paid $10,000 by Project Veritas to lie. Project Veritas has had dozens of videos lying over time. Some of them are accurate, some of them are not. So yeah, you need to do a little bit more research, my friend. You need to do a little bit more research. Okay, Justin saying, I don't want to get into any political debates. Your opinion outweighs all others, but I did notice when I go to vote, they never asked for me for ID. They did for me. I had no problems with I had no problems with the voting process. It was 100% totally legit. It was totally on point. There were the two people right next to each other. They were reviewing each other. They were extra cautious about it. Like, if anything, they went over and above beyond the level of cautiousness about it. It was, yeah, it was, I didn't see any issues on that. Justin, again, either way, Trump is going to fight tooth and nail probably to make this as painful as possible. It's in his nature. I'd say the evidence supports your claim. I think don't get me wrong. He has every right to fight and file legal challenges. That's totally within his purview. And if he feels there's wrongdoing, he should do that. If I felt there was wrongdoing, I would file legal challenges. I don't think he's been necessarily managing it in a very good way. I feel like he's kind of throwing a tantrum, in my opinion. I know I would never act the way he has acted about this here. To come out at 2 a.m. on the night of the election, 100% knowing that there was going to be ballots that were going to be counted after election day, and to come out and say, hey, we won, I think is ridiculous. Knowing that there are millions and millions and millions of ballots. Even if this wasn't a COVID situation, you still have millions and millions of ballots that are always not fully counted on election day. And because of COVID, it's put the situation in even greater stress in the sense of, hey, there's more votes that need to be counted. So yeah, I don't think he's handled this very well. And even some of the Republicans are breaking with him. McConnell's like, yeah, I don't agree with that. All the votes need to be counted. I mean, if you want to see a measure of hypocrisy here, look at it like this. Trump is like, hey, they need to stop the count. They need to stop the votes. They need to stop that in Pennsylvania and in Michigan, states where he was up election night. But then you look at Arizona where he's down. Oh, they need to keep the count going. They need to keep all the vote. They need to count all the votes there. It's a total hypocrisy. It's a total hypocrisy. I'm not saying it's a left v right thing, but I have noticed that Trump and Trump supporters, the people are protesting in Arizona, are saying count the vote. The people are protesting in Michigan and Pennsylvania are saying stop the vote. That's a total hypocrisy. Let all the votes be counted. That's what a democracy is. Let all the votes be counted. As long as they're within the parameters, they're followed on the right dates, they're collected by the right times, they're all within the legal framework, count all the votes. That's what a democracy is. Representation by voting. So, yeah. Okay. With that being said, I'm sorry if we disagree on this Forex here. I prefer to engage in the facts and logic and the evidence. That's what I do as a trader, and that's what I have to do as a citizen who's voting in the situation. So if there's evidence of that and it's very clear, I'm totally happy to concede, yeah, you're right, there is evidence of that, but I've seen no evidence of that right now. So Fred Wallenderson, what happens to USD and NASDAQ and gold if Biden wins? It depends on how Biden wins. So with that being said, it depends. So if Biden wins, but we have a highly contested election, that's like, maybe Biden wins a lot of these states. Maybe he keeps Arizona, Nevada, he picks up Georgia, he picks up Pennsylvania, but then we have to go to a recount. Well, that's going to create uncertainty with the US dollar. Georgia's within 1,100 votes. That's going to create uncertainty. Pennsylvania is within 6,000, 5,600. That's going to create uncertainty. So anything that prolongs the situation, that creates uncertainty, is going to benefit gold. It's going to hurt the US dollar. That's what I see happening there. If it comes out that he sweeps Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, and then the Trump legal team or whatever it is like, it's not worth it for us to push for all this, to fight all this, we're going to waste taxpayer resources, we're going to do all these things, and they just fold, then you'll probably see the US dollar start to gain strength. So that's how I see this playing out, but it depends on how it's going to play out. That's why I wanted precious metal exposure going into this. That's why I wanted VIX exposure going into this. That's why I wanted some tech stocks in case we get a rally. I think once it's all said and done, I think the indices are going to do really well. I think the indices are going to rally. How much? It doesn't look like the Democrats are going to take the Senate. So you're going to have a divided Senate with the House. You have a Democratic president, Democratic House, Republican Senate. I think that will create a situation where there will be a relief package. Trump may or may not do a relief package in the lame duck session that he has left, remaining up to January 20th, so 2 months roughly. He may or may not pass a relief package, or he may do it to help the Republican Party for the next time going around, say, hey, we passed this great package or something like that. But they have less bargaining chips to work with right now. Democrats could have a relief package. If nothing gets passed between now and the inauguration, Democrats could have a relief package ready to go right off the bat. I don't think it's going to be as large as they had originally wanted, because the Republicans will have some control of the Senate, but there'll be something passed, and that will create relief. That will help out the economy. That will help out the US dollar. That will help out the index or the indices. So I think that will be bullish for that. But I think you can anticipate 2 years of obstruction and gridlock from the Republicans. So, for the last 4 years, they've had not a mention about deficit or spending or the budget, nothing on that. No commentary on that at all. Not even in this, process, even in the primaries, even in the general election. You didn't hear anything about Trump saying the deficit, the debt, spending, or anything like that. I'm making my prediction now that if Biden gets elected and the Republicans maintain control of the Senate, McConnell and the Republicans are going to come out and be like, after the stimulus bill is passed, they're going to be like, hey, the debt's getting big. You're spending too much. We need to cut back on spending. I think it's going to be a total BS play, but I think they're going to do it. They're within their right to do that, but I think they're going to do it. And if they create a lot of obstructionism, then it's going to be 2 years of that happening. So that's my prediction on that one there. And that will make it challenging for there to be massive progress in this. The Green New Deal will not happen then. But we'll see. It depends. Do the Republicans care more about the next election, or do they care about the country right now? That remains to be seen. And there's a possibility that Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader right now, his health is failing. There's a possibility he, passes within this last term here. So there's just so many scenarios that can play themselves out right now. Peter Ramos, who is your president? If I had it my way, it would be Bernie Sanders. I don't think he's perfect, but I think he would have been the best person for the country right now. Joe Biden was like 5th or 8th on my list, but right now it's between 2 candidates, so I'm leaning towards Biden. Tom Limberg is saying the relationship between Germany and the US will certainly be better with Biden. I agree with that. I think the relationship with a lot of countries will be better with Biden. Again, I'm not saying that Trump is evil or all bad or anything like that. I'm a Buddhist. I believe every person has wisdom and confusion. Even if you don't like Trump, even if you think he's the worst person in the world, I think he has wisdom and confusion. I like some of the things he did on China, hitting back with Huawei and all that. I like what he did on trade, at least some of the stuff he did on trade. He messed up certain things on trade for sure, if you really look at it. Like our trade deficit with China has actually increased over his term. But I do like the fact that he went after China. I do like the fact that he got rid of NAFTA. There's certain things I do like that he did. I don't think everything he did is bad. But I think how he related to other countries was not very good. It's not that he didn't have points about NATO and funding and things like that, but I think there was a better way to handle it. It's not that he didn't have points about, the WHO and funding that, but there's a better way to handle that. Leadership takes bringing people into the fold, not alienating people. And leadership, in my opinion, takes accepting responsibility for your actions. Trump never did that. He never did that. There's a million times he was asked, do you take responsibility for the coronavirus? No, I take no responsibility for this. You're the president. It's your country. You are making the decisions. He made the decision to strip a lot of funding before this whole thing started to happen. He took away, we had a lot of resources like PPE resources and stuff like that. He got rid of them 7 months before. There's a really good YouTube video about this, like documentary about it, that explains all fact-based stuff. He was handed a pandemic playbook. They completely ignored it. So there's so many things that Trump did that to me did not suggest leadership. They suggested someone that was in it for him. In the future, I've thought about writing a book about Trump from a Buddhist perspective, because we as Buddhists have very particular ways of understanding somebody's mindset. And I said it from the very beginning. I'm like, this guy is a rotten neurotic. 100%. He's like the rotten neurosis. He's not the rotten of wisdom. He's the rotten neurosis. And one day I'll explain what that is from a Buddhist perspective. And Buddhists have for years, for millennia, laid out what a Ratna neurosis and a Ratna wisdom person is like. And here's the characteristics of them. And here's the characteristics of that. And Trump is literally manifesting them by the book. Like what we have described as the neurotic version of this particular energy and quality, he is literally playing it out to the book. So maybe in the future, I'll write a book on that or something like that. But while I think he's done some good things, I think the overall has been a net negative. I think he's done okay on the economy, but I think the tax cuts for the rich was not helpful. There was no trickle down effect from that. You've seen the wealth gap increase under his watch, not decrease. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on that. Sophia, every state has their own voting laws regarding mail-in voting postmarks. Some can be counted as long as they're postmarked by the election day. Exactly. Others have to be received by election day. It's different for each state. It's different for each state. How do I feel about Kamala? I'm not a fan of her. I am not a fan of her. I think she was a bad choice. She gave no boost. I mean, come on, in the Democratic primary, she was wiped out by Tulsi. So I think there were better candidates. I think she was more chosen by the Democratic backers versus like the people in power who were behind Joe Biden. I think they chose her versus someone else. So I think there were definitely better candidates. Okay. Now that we've gotten over all that politics stuff, I'm sure Forex is probably no longer here. I'm sure he's gotten offended by all this. Let's get into just a recap of what's going on with markets, some of the trades we've been talking about, and let's then we can do open Q&A. How are we doing on time? 7:07. Okay, I can go to about 7:15 because I have a webinar with members at 8. Buenos días, Marcelo. ¿Cómo te va en Ecuador? ¿Cómo te va con tu país? Muy bien. Que espero todo bien. Okay, yeah, I could probably go for about another 10 minutes because I'll have to get some breakfast. I'll have to get some breakfast before my my situation here. Okay. So Forex is saying no, not a snowflake. Okay, cool. Well, that's good. You know, this is the way it should be. It should be, people should be able to have passionate disagreements, but it should be one that's not making the other person bad or good. I don't, just because you disagree with me and maybe you're on the right, I don't think you're bad or good. I think the polarization in the country is too extreme. And I don't think Trump has helped that, in my opinion. I don't think the left has helped it, but I don't think Trump has helped the situation either. The other day, you know, I live in California, which is more Democrat. However, I live in a rural town, which has got a mix of Democrat and Republicans. And in my opinion, you know, I feel like because it's a small town, that it's pretty workable, but I don't, just because somebody is a Trump supporter, I don't think they're a villain or a bad guy. And just because, you know, if I was on Trump's side and I saw a Democrat, I wouldn't think they're a bad guy because they're on the left. I think I grew up in this country where that was not as much of a problem. It's more of a problem now than it ever has been. And I think the tone and the temperature needs to calm down. I drove by a group of Trump supporters the other day that were, you know, had their flags on and stuff like that. I just waved to them. I just waved and I smiled. It's not that I'm voting Trump, but I didn't want to be a part of the increase in polarization. As long as you think one side is good and one side is evil, you're just going to amplify that polarization. If somebody on the other side is thinking I'm evil and I'm the devil, that's not going to create a bridge, and that's not going to bring the temperature down. People should be able to have different political views, be on different sides, and not hate each other because they're on a different side. People should be able to be with other people who disagree with them and not hate them. You may disagree with me on some of the things I made to your arguments, but I don't hate you. I don't think you're a bad person. I don't agree with some of it, but I feel like we should be able to have an adult dialogue, present evidence, present facts, do it based on logic, reduce the emotional content in it, and just be non-passionate about it, or be passionate about it, but non-personal about it. Like, it doesn't make me a bad person if I disagree with you. It doesn't make you a bad person if you disagree with me. I think that needs to change in the US. I think if everybody took the view, I'm not saying everybody should be Buddhist. I don't think that is a reality, but I think if everybody just took that one view and really embraced it, that every single person you meet has wisdom and confusion. and that if you take the time to get to know them, you will see that and see that they have differing views for whatever reason, that I think the temperature in this country and the polarization and the dichotomy would diminish. I think it would be a much easier situation to be in. I don't like this division. I don't like this polarization. And I will fight in a nonviolent way to decrease that polarization. So I hope that, we can have that kind of disagreement, 4X, and that we don't think about each other differently as a person. I don't know who you are because I just see 4X. I don't know if you're a member of mine or not. I don't know if you're just a subscriber to YouTube or not, or just someone who wanted to find out what's going on. But I hope that through our disagreement, you're not going to see me as a bad person. I certainly don't see you as a bad person. I see you as someone who's just very strongly passionate about their beliefs. They want their candidate to win. I totally understand that. And so, let's be a part of the solution instead of the problem. Let's be that. That's my hope. Sunday Kumar, who is going to win in the USA? Why is it getting delayed? An announcement only for 32 crore people. I don't know about that. So, Sandeep, the way the US election works is that you have votes that you have many types of votes. There are 4 different types of votes. You can vote in person. You can drop off a ballot. You can mail in your vote, or you can vote by absentee. Those are the 4 ways you can vote in the US. And when you vote in person, obviously that's really easy for states to count and tabulate and put up the numbers. But absentee ballots, votes that are dropped off, votes that are mailed in, some of those votes that are mail in can arrive after election day and still count. Some states say, hey, all votes have to be in by election day. Some states say, hey, it has to be postmarked by election day, but it can arrive 2 days later, 3 days later, whatever. Some states go up to the 10th. So it's not that we have a monolith system in the US. We have individual systems in the different states. And that's creating this situation where it makes it hard to know who's the winner, because we still have a lot of votes that have to be counted. If they're legitimate votes, they need to be counted. Even Republicans are saying that. McConnell's saying that. Santorum's saying that. They're all saying that, hey, if they're legitimate votes, they need to be counted. That's democracy. And as long as they're within the purview of the rules, that's how it's supposed to work. So that's why we have this situation. In terms of who is going to win, I'm leaning towards Joe Biden. As I said on Tuesday night, I think, when I did the U.S. election, I think it's like a 65-35 chance that Biden wins. I thought it was very possible Trump could win, but I also even said, hey, watch out for the red mirage. Majority of people on the right and the Republicans vote in person. A lot of people on the left vote by mail-in or drop-off or absentee. So that's what it is. That's where I'm leaning. Chris, what's your take on the allocated QQQ medium-term wise? Okay, we'll get to that. The Biden crime family. Yeah, I don't know if that's... How do I answer that, Kevin? I think that there's only corruption in the Biden family and not corruption in the Trump family, I think that's kind of naive. I think it's a little naive. Trump, while he did use the legal tax framework to his advantage, there's no way he can say, oh, my children, Ivanka and the other one, there's no way he can say, oh, me paying them consulting fees was legit. He did that too, so that they wouldn't have to pay taxes. He wouldn't, it was all about taxes. There's a lot of corruption. Trump is facing like a lot of lawsuits right now. Case in point, the whole thing with Deutsche Bank. He has outstanding loans to Deutsche Bank, right? This is well known. In 2008, when the crisis happened, the great financial crisis, which was created by Wall Street, when he took losses on that, he sued Deutsche Bank saying he shouldn't have to pay those loans. Do you know what his argument was in court? Force majeure. Do you know what that means? Act of God. He was saying that the 2008 financial crisis, which was created by Wall Street, was an act of God. Generally, force majeure is a hurricane, a tornado, you're driving, a bee flies into your glasses, it causes you to crash. That's force majeure. A deer hits your car, causes you to go off-road. That's force majeure. A financial crisis created by Wall Street, that's complete BS. That's the biggest BS argument possible. So if you think there's only corruption on one side and not the other, I think you're pretty naive, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm willing to hold to that steadfast, but the evidence is supporting that you might be naive to think that. I think both have corruption in them. Both have corrupt things that they've done in the past. Again, wisdom and confusion. So YSSJC, hi Sir Chris, you read books and so what books? I've already have articles on books. I only read 4 types of books. I read books on trading, I read books on Buddhism, I read books on neuroscience, and I read books on like peak performance and mindset. That's what I read. Chris W, you should get Trading in the Zone. Yeah, I haven't. I've read that many times. To be honest, I think it was okay. I think it was good, not great. I think if you're new to that stuff, it's good. But to me as a Buddhist, I was kind of like, there's some good stuff in here, but I feel like there's better stuff out there. I believe I have already in the docket. I'm planning on writing a book on mindset. I believe my book will probably be better than Mark Douglas's. I know it's a bold statement, but there's a difference between me and Mark Douglas. He trained in psychology. I trained in Buddhism for 20 years. I've done a 1-year meditation retreat. I've done 150 weekend retreats. Like I've done a lot. Nobody in the trading business has, maybe 1 or 2 people on the planet have done that much practice. So yeah, I think that I'll be able to produce, I think there's better books out there on trading psychology than that, in my opinion. You meant you don't have EVM machine? I don't know what an EVM machine. Understand ballot works. Yeah, I understand how ballot works in the US. I do. I understand probably the voting process very, very well. Antonio Cervantes, should I use this week's sector ETF performance to predict trending sectors for the next week? No, I wouldn't. I think you have a lot of uncertainty going on right now in the markets, and I think you need to let the election play itself out. I think you need to let this play itself out before you have an idea what's going on. I do believe overall there'll be a dip buying opportunity. Marcel Riascos is saying, we will have a Chris Capri book one day. Yes, I'll write several in my lifetime. Justin Cooper is saying, Biden is going to better for us for the outside the US, but I sure will miss how funny Trump is to watch. He's definitely entertaining, that's for sure. He might be the funniest thing to happen to TV in my life. I know a lot of comedians agree with that too. Okay, so how are we doing on time? Okay, let me do some quick analysis, then I gotta hop off, get some breakfast, and then come back and do my member webinar. All right, so ES and Qs, I think you gotta wait on indices right now. Right now, they are leaning pretty bullish, but elections and lawsuits and how things play out could create a lot of uncertainty. I personally would not take a whole lot of positioning in major indices right now. I would like to see it all settle. I think any sort of dips are buying opportunities, but look at the US markets. They're all red. They're all red across the board. Only the mid caps are up and by a very small amount. It's all red. So the uncertainty in the election is hanging on it right now. I think investors will be nervous taking positions and holding positions through the weekend. We're seeing that in NASDAQ. I mean, look at that. It's just a lot of chop. I'd rather wait for a deeper dip to get long. DKNG, I bought some last night. I've been long DKNG for a while. DKNG has rallied strongly off the 35 lows. I feel like DKNG has a short-term base in play. So if you're a medium to long-term player on DKNG, I think you have your base in play. I think 35 to 36 is a pretty good buy zone. If you want a shorter zone, I would look for weekly VWAP around 39.50. NEO, I like holding long-term, but I don't like some of the uncertainty in this. We have a strong sell-off rally that failed to reach the new highs. So again, I'd rather wait for a bigger dip on NEO. Same thing with Plug. We've been profiting from Plug all this week. NEO all this week. We've been long NEO, long Plug. I'll be sending out a newsletter to my Intro to Trading School course subscribers. So make sure you sign up for that. Let me sign up for that. You'll get access to the newsletter today. I'll be talking about trades that, some trade opportunities and things like that. I'll be sharing some of the trades that I took this week. If you're in my stock trading course, then you get access to that because I trade live for my members. Why is my website taking a while to load? There we go. Okay, so if you want to sign up for the Intro to Trading School, you can do that here. Okay. So So yeah, plug, I prefer pullbacks on that. I like being long precious metals right now. I think being long precious metals is a really good thing to have right now. And I'm seeing, what I'm seeing in this is you have an impulsive corrective structure, impulsive run. This whole pullback is corrective. It's not impulsive. So I'm expecting this to break. And I think we're pretty close to this structure breaking. You can kind of see. I think the structure is close to breaking. Maybe it is breaking right now. I'm already long GDX. I might add to my position, but I'm long GDX. I think this impulsive corrective structure is going to break, and I lean more towards the upside. And if it does, I think it could make it all the way back to 45. So I think there's a good play on precious metals. If you don't want to do GDX, which is Gold Miners Index, you could take SLV, which is the silver ETF. Very similar structure, not quite as much because you have the corrective structure, deep sell-off corrective structure, but I think this is rallying. You're just seeing, look at GLD. GLD has got a very similar structure to GDX. Impulsive, corrective, impulsive, corrective. This corrective structure is counter trend. And you can see that this is starting to break. So, it's sold off. It went sideways. That's a transition. Now it's rallying. It's cleared out these highs here. That's a transition. So I like GLD. I might get some exposure to myself via GLD. Okay. What are you doing on the members webinar? You'll have to be a member to find out. Let's see here. Anything else? Okay, that's pretty much it. Somebody had a question about KHC as a dividend stock. I don't think right now is the best time to be a dividend player. We talk about KHC. We talk about KHC in my wealth building course, Kraft Heinz, but I don't think right now is the best time to be thinking dividends. I don't think so. I mean, 5% is great, but I don't think it's a good time to be dividends. Think about it like this. I'll give you a very brief hint of what we teach in my wealth building course. In a stock portfolio, if you own a stock portfolio, where are the larger portion of your gains going to be? Dividends or capital appreciation? When you answer that, you'll have your answer to that. There are more people that have gotten rich from their stock portfolio from the capital gains than they have the dividends. Dividends is a secondary income. It's not a primary income. Therefore, it should never be the primary reason. If you want to learn more, that's what I have my wealth building course for. So, okay. With that being said, I have to wrap this up. I need to get some breakfast before I do my member webinar. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, hammer that like button. I appreciate it. It lets me know that you got value out of this, whether you agreed with me politically or not. I hope you got some value out of this. I hope you got value out of my analysis, my take on the election, how it's going to affect markets, potential trade ideas. If you want to trade live with me in our stock trading course, I do my live trading with my members Monday through Thursday. So you could see how I trade, get access to my trades in real time kind of thing. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to hit that like button. I do appreciate it. I will see you guys next Tuesday for the U.S. Market Open. Hopefully by then we have some sort of clarity on the winner is. We may or may not. The election could be called by today, but with the legal situations, I think there's a good chance we won't have the winner going into this weekend. So very, very interesting time periods ahead. Be smart, be safe, be positive, and just be really focused on and attentive to what's happening right now because everything's in flux right now. So with that being said, good luck trading, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.